When I collapsed at work, the doctors called my parents. They never came. 3 days later, still hooked to machines, I opened my phone and saw what they'd been doing. Instead, my sister's smiling face tagged me under a photo, family outing without the stress. The caption burned more than the 4 in my arm. I didn't text. I didn't cry. I just watched the likes climb, wondering when family stopped meaning love and started meaning performance. Then 4 days later, 68 missed calls appeared on my screen and one message from Dad. "We need you." That's when everything changed. Just not the way they expected. I used to believe exhaustion was just part of being dependable. At Summit Solutions, deadlines were tight, projects endless, and somehow I was always the one who stayed late, the one who made things happen. My coworkers said I had the kind of discipline that intimidated them. They didn't know it wasn't drive. It was survival, because every hour I worked wasn't just for me. It was for the people waiting at home to be rescued again. My dad, Daniel, had been out of work since the real estate collapse. He called it temporary, but 8 years felt permanent. My mom, Leela, said he just needed time. But what he really needed was someone else's paycheck. Mine. My sister, Natalie, our family's social media star, was always launching something new, a skincare line, a vlog, a tea brand. Each failed faster than the last. My support often came through quick transfers labeled help or just this month, and little Emma, still in college for architecture, liked to play the mediator. She never argued. She just borrowed quietly and forgot loudly. From the outside, we looked perfect. Smiling family photos, coordinated outfits, fake laughter. Online, Natalie called us the Carters, proof that love conquers all. She posted that right after I'd paid Mom's car insurance and covered the mortgages. Late fee? Love apparently had a balance too. Grandpa Henry was the only one who ever saw through it. He'd been a CPA for 40 years and could read people like spreadsheets. "You can't audit love," he once told me. "But you'll know when the numbers stop adding up," he warned me gently. That my parents had started seeing me as the fallback plan. I didn't want to believe him. I was raised to think loyalty fixed everything. So I kept fixing. I paid what I shouldn't, smiled when I shouldn't. The truth is, I was scared to stop, scared that if I ever said no, they'd finally show me what love was really worth. The night before I collapsed, I was still in the office at PM, staring at floor plans I couldn't even focus on. My chest had been tightening for weeks, my vision fading at the edges. I thought it was stressed out. It wasn't, but even then, as I packed up my laptop, my phone buzzed with a text from Natalie. "Can you cover my rent? Promise I'll pay you back next month." I typed a reply, then deleted it, then typed again. Sure. That was the last message I sent before the floor came up to meet me. The hospital lights were too white, too clean, like they were trying to erase what had happened. When I opened my eyes, everything was blurred. The ceiling tiles, the 4 lines, the nurse asking if I knew where I was. I didn't answer right away. I was still trying to remember what day it was. My phone was dead. My chest ached. The monitor beside me beeped softly, keeping time with something fragile inside me. When a doctor finally explained, his voice was calm but distant. "Cardiac event. You were lucky your coworker acted fast." Lucky. That word stung, because luck shouldn't be what kept me alive. Love should have done that. They told me they'd called my emergency contacts, my parents, but no one had answered. We left several messages, the nurse edited carefully, like she was afraid the truth might hurt more than the 4 needle in my arm. Hours passed. No calls, no visits, nothing. On the 3rd day, the nurse wheeled in, my phone, fully charged. I shouldn't have opened it, but I did. The first thing I saw wasn't a missed call or a text. It was a notification. "You've been tagged in a post by an official account." My fingers trembled as I tapped it open. The picture loaded slowly. Sunlight, river water, my family smiling around a picnic table, Mom holding deviled eggs, Dad with soda in hand, Emma flashing peace signs beside Natalie, whose caption glowed beneath their perfect faces. Family outing without the stress. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. The beeping from the monitor spiked, matching my pulse. The irony was almost poetic. They had erased me while pretending to celebrate family. I zoomed in on their faces, smiling, relaxed, carefree. No one looked guilty. No one looked like they were missing me. A nurse passed by and asked if I needed anything. I said, "No, I think I've had enough." I didn't comment, didn't call, didn't even text. I just stared until the phone dimmed and my reflection looked back at me pale, tired, but suddenly calm. That kind of calm that doesn't come from peace. It comes from clarity. By the fourth day, I started walking again, slow and unsteady, dragging the four-pole like a second shadow. The doctor said recovery would take weeks. He didn't know it wouldn't just be my heart that needed healing. Then one morning, my phone buzzed nonstop, 68 missed calls, a text from Dad. "We need you." Answer immediately. "No, how are you?" No apology, just urgency. Command, panic. I read it once, then again. The absurdity almost made me laugh. They ignored me when I needed the most, and now they were demanding I save them. But I didn't call back, not this time. Instead, I scrolled to another contact, Grandpa Henry. My thumb hovered over his name. When I pressed call, he answered on the second ring. He said quietly, "You don't have to explain." That was the first time in years someone had spoken to me like I mattered. Grandpa Henry showed up 40 minutes later, still wearing his old brown coat and that expression that never gave anything away. He didn't hug me. He never was the hugging type, but he sat down beside my hospital bed like he'd been doing it his whole life. "So they finally broke you, huh?" he said, glancing at the monitor beside me. I smiled barely. "Guess so." He didn't ask for details. He already knew. That was his way. Silent surgical understanding. He stayed the entire day talking to my nurse, making sure my insurance covered what it should. When the billing clerk mentioned a few unpaid balances, he didn't flinch. He pulled out his tablet and began typing. "What are you doing?" I asked. "Taking stock," he said. "Before you start cutting cords, you need to know where they all lead." We went through everything. My checking accounts, automatic transfers, car insurance payments, joint credit lines. My stomach turned as the list grew. Every week, money left my account like slow bleeding. Natalie's loan, Emma's rent, Mom's car, even a utilities payment under my name for a house I hadn't lived in since college. How did I let this happen? I whispered. "You thought it was love," he said simply. "They thought it was obligation." Different math. That night, while the machines hummed and the hospital went quiet, Grandpa Henry showed me how to shut them off one by one, not out of spite, but self-preservation. He drafted a spreadsheet, wrote out every recurring payment, and handed it to me like a map out of hell. "Tomorrow," he said, "we start with the bank." I didn't sleep much. I kept seeing that photo, their smiles, the sunlight, and hearing the faint beep of the monitor like a countdown. The next morning, I called my bank from the hospital. The clerk recognized my voice. I'd been the reliable one for years. By noon, the auto transfers were gone, Natalie's account canceled, Emma's rent deposit stopped, Mom's insurance removed. Each click felt like breathing again. By evening, the phone started buzzing. First text from Mom. "We just heard what happened. Why didn't you tell us?" Then Emma. "Can we talk?" "It's a misunderstanding." I ignored them all. Grandpa Henry sat beside me reading the paper, pretending not to watch. "You feel guilty yet?" he asked finally. "Yeah," I admitted. "A little. That'll pass. Guilt's the tax good people pay before freedom." The next day, I left the hospital. Grandpa Henry drove me home. My apartment felt smaller than I remembered, like the walls were listening. I silenced my phone, unplugged it, and stared out the window for a long time. Then a vibration, another message from Dad. "This is serious. Call me now. Everything is falling apart." I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. They'd mistaken my silence for surrender. They didn't know. Silence was the sound of me taking back control. 2 days later, I was back at Grandpa Henry's place in Seattle. A small one-story house that smelled faintly of coffee and old wood. He'd cleared the dining table, spreading out files like a general preparing for war. The afternoon sun slanted across stacks of papers, payment histories, account statements, insurance letters, my financial fingerprints. Across years of quiet enabling, every story leaves a paper trail. He said, "Yours just happens to be in dollars." He wasn't wrong. By the time we finished, the picture was clear. I hadn't just helped them. I had been financing the illusion of their stability. Without my income, everything they'd built, the image, the comfort, the control would collapse, and it did. The calls doubled. My voicemail filled with my mother's careful voice, sweet on the surface, sharp underneath. "Ava honey, we didn't know you were in the hospital. Why didn't you tell us sooner? Then softer, almost a whisper, your father's worried about the mortgage again. Worried. Not sorry. Natalie's texts came next. Screenshots of her empty account, dramatic crying emojis, and one message that read, "If you don't fix this, I'll lose everything." I stared at it for a long time before replying with a single word. Good. Then came Emma's attempt. I'm not like them, she wrote. Please don't punish me for their mistakes. I almost laughed. She'd said the same thing when I'd co-signed her lease last year. Grandpa Henry was watching me scroll the corner of his mouth, twitching like he'd seen this movie before. They're not calling because they care, he said. They're calling because they're cornered. He was right again. The next morning, a car idled outside my apartment building. Daniel Miller, my father, sitting in the driver's seat, staring up at my window. He didn't text. He didn't come up. Just waited like a debt collector waiting for confession. I didn't go down. That afternoon, a new message arrived. You're about to destroy everything we built. I hope you understand the damage you're causing. Everything we built. I read it twice out loud just to taste the absurdity of it. I showed it to Grandpa Henry. He just nodded. That sentence says more than he ever meant it to. And then came the video. Natalie uploaded it that night, a slow, emotional walkthrough of our childhood home, now empty. The camera panned across bare walls and scattered boxes, her voice trembling. They took everything she said, and guess who let them? The video cut to a photo of me smiling, cropped from a family Christmas years ago. The caption, "Sometimes blood doesn't mean family." The comments exploded. Sympathy, pity, judgment. Influencers reposted it. My inbox filled with strangers calling me ungrateful. Grandpa Henry watched the whole thing in silence, then stood up, pulled his phone from his pocket, and made 3 calls. Within 48 hours, we had every document, mortgage papers, loan defaults, late fees. They'd used the house equity to pay off Natalie's credit cards and Emma's business venture, a boutique tea studio that never opened. I didn't even have to expose them. The math did it for me. Still, I filed the fraud report. Grandpa Henry and his lawyer, Mr. Klein, helped prepare a cease and desist order. No contact, no impersonation, no financial claims. We sent it through certified mail, one to each of them. For the first